This video is sponsored by Echo D Super Baby Diaper and Wet Wipes.
I'm Pamela. From pregnancy to childbirth was not easy for me, and I think mothers should be able to share their stories to inspire others that whatever they are going through would eventually be fine. Yeah. I went for a funeral and I went with my office, some colleagues from my office, and I was like, I'm not feeling so well. We were going to be served drinks, and I said, oh, I'm not sure, I'm not feeling so well, and I don't know what it is, so I'm not comfortable having any alcoholic drink. So on my way home, I bought the test kit. And then when I got home, I tested and I realized, yeah, I was pregnant. I actually thought he wouldn't be happy about it because seriously, at that time, we were not ready because his contract had ended and we were just starting. It would have been too much pressure. So I didn't know how he would actually feel about it. But when I told him, I was very surprised. I guess I was more worried than he was. He was very happy about it. He was very happy about it. When I realized I was pregnant, it was just about a month after I got married. I'm a fun-loving person, and I intended to have fun at least the first year of my marriage, but so the pregnancy came as a surprise. Then I went to the hospital. Then the doctor did a scan, and he was like, "Oh, this is an ectopic pregnancy." And it's just ruined my whole mood about the pregnancy. So I decided to seek a second opinion because a part of me believed that it was not. And then I went to another branch of the same hospital, and it turned out to be a false alarm, say. So the question is, what if I just proceeded to aborting the pregnancy? I would have lost the baby I have now that brings me so much joy. Way through the pregnancy, it wasn't easy for me because as a person, I didn't have so much weight. I weighed less than 50 kg when I got married. So the pregnancy really dealt with me. At a point, there was one day I dropped off my husband at work. I was going with a colleague, and then around Men's Vic Hotel, I just fainted. Luckily for me, I wasn't feeling so good, so I just branched off the road, and then I fainted. My colleague with me had to buy water and pour on me. I went to the hospital. They said I had low blood pressure, so they banned me from driving till I put to bed. Then other issues of anemia came up. Every other day, I have to go to the hospital for an iron IV. And so at the point where I was going into labor, all the nurses in the hospital knew me. So it was like I was coming home. So the labor was actually a bit okay for me. There was no pressure there. But the stress of going to the hospital every other day, being pricked here and there it took away the whole excitement from the pregnancy. It felt like you were sick and then they had to save your life, and it wasn't easy. Actually, I was in labor for a week and I didn't know. I will be there. I feel like I had some muscle pull. I get up and it's okay. But on on Thursday, I said I didn't like the way I was feeling, so I would go and check. And then the doctor said, "Oh, you've been in labor for a while, but it's just not progressing." So it's either I was to just go home and bring my stuff or come the next day for me to be induced. I was induced, then the labor started kicking in. Then they couldn't feel the heartbeat of the child. And it persisted for a while. Then they gave me a drip. Then they could hear him now. Then the labor was smooth. Normal labor pains. And induction is like 9 times the normal labor pain. So, but it progressed very fast and I gave birth. I gave birth and then I think 2 days later we were discharged. We went home and I felt like the baby wasn't doing so well. So I went back to the hospital and then they said he had, I think, neonatal jaundice. He had neonatal jaundice. They kept us for, I think, a week. They put them in this transparent machine with a blue light to clear the jaundice. You can't pick the child no matter how much the child is crying. So when he's there crying, I also sit by and I cry with him. So my first week of being a mother was spent in the hospital. That cleared, we came back home. He wasn't feeling too well again, so we went back to the hospital. And I think right now as I sit here, I think that it was just my imaginations that were playing tricks on me, because the second time we were admitted at the hospital, they said it is a possible infection. And they pricked his hand. They were finding it difficult finding his veins, and then apparently they found one and they plastered it. So for like 3 days they were giving him drips and injections, and not knowing, anytime they were going to inject him through the vein, he would cry so hard. We didn't know that his hand has gotten rotten. So right now, if you see my son's on top of his palm, he has a big scar there. At the time that we were discharged and they were removing the plaster, before we realized that that part has become, I would say, rotten, because it had gotten swollen and had collected water and was there for all that time. And then they were still pumping medicines through that same vein. So my husband was angry, because at least somebody could have checked what was wrong. And so when we were discharged, we had to treat, but the mark is still there. So for me, the pregnancy experience, the first 2 weeks of motherhood was I didn't say this, but they induced me before my husband came to the hospital. From the time he entered the hospital, so I moved from the labor ward to the ward. He was there throughout. He was there when the baby came out. He didn't freak out. He was interested, and because of my experience with the nurses, they knew us very well, that they allowed him stay in the labor ward, and he was actually standing by the nurse. I remember the nurse said, "Wow, come and look at his head." That time I had crowned. So he came to stand by the nurse, and then he said, "Is that his hair?" Then the nurse said yes. So it was like I was giving birth at home. That was how it felt like. And when I gave birth, when the baby came out, they put him on me. Then he said he wants to carry the baby as he was. Then they gave it to him. He's been brave throughout. I think most of the time I'm the one who freaks out, but he's been incredible throughout. Yeah. So we went to the hospital with him, and then they came for him. When they were done, I wasn't there when they were doing the circumcision. So when I could hear him cry, then I started crying. His childhood, whenever he's crying, I cried. I will be weeping as if I'm the one that's they were doing whatever it is to. So when he came out, he looked at my face and he said, "Nah." Funny enough, that's not how he cries. But when he wants me at very tender age, you hear nga. So my mother used to tell me that when he says nga, maybe it's like ma or something. So he was calling me. So there's a difference between he just crying for something and then when he cries for me. And it was something we all picked up in the house very early at his bed. When he came back, he saw me, was like, nah, and I said, oh, then I also started crying. When we went home, this boy couldn't sleep. I could imagine the pain he was going through, and I am very possessive. I was very possessive of him, so I was always fighting my mother, like, oh, this is how we have to do it. No, 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 let's do it like this. So I had so many arguments with my mother about how it should be done. But I think the olden days stuff worked better than ours. For instance, the naval, what is the name? The umbilical cord. We were given this cream to use from the hospital. It's supposed to drop, I think, 5 days. But the cream wasn't working. I think within 2 weeks it was still there. Then my mom was like, those days they used to use spirit. And within 3 days the thing falls off. And we used spirits. The following day the thing fell off. So she was like, have I sinned? We think that because we've gone to school, we know better than that they took care of us. Before, more than they know. But I wouldn't blame it too much on me. I'm a new mother. I'm excited about my kid. I am possessive. But my mother was able to manage me anyhow. But one thing that I fell out with hospitals these days is that they seem to shelve everything that used to work. And then they want new mothers to concentrate on new trends, but some of them are not so bad like they preach it. The circumcision, after that, the ring had to fall off. We did everything. It wasn't falling off. Then my mom said that she remembers that they use Guardian. You have to, Guardian soap, the old Guardian soap. You just leave it in water. When it's a bit soapy, you pour it on his private part, and then within a few days the ring fell off and he was fine. So I had my own doubts about hospital procedure, prescription, especially when they damaged my son's hand. But the circumcision, listening to my mother, I think it worked better for us. Yeah. I don't sleep well. I think I haven't slept well in the past 3 years, from pregnancy till date. I have not been able to sleep well, and It's like I'm a walking zombie. So when I get to the office, I need to drink coffee to start my day. Otherwise, I'm just this dull person. Naturally, I'm hyper, but the sleep deprivation is serious. Yeah, and you have to you don't have a time for yourself anymore. It's not just about you anymore. So everything you have to do, you have to give the first considerations to your child. How is it going to impact on him, his life, everything? Yeah. So it's never the same. Before I got pregnant, I weighed 49 kg, and I was at size 8. Now I'm a size 12. And then the baby stomach doesn't just go away for some of us, I guess. And people see you and, oh, Pamela, are you pregnant again? Then you have to say, no, it's just my stomach. Then you feel some way about it. I don't know why people think that when you give birth, you just shrink back to your your body before childbirth. So your body changes, and that you have to live with. There was a point where my mom had to leave, and because she was around, I never got to be bathing the baby, but she had to leave at a point, and I think I had some 3 days I had to take care of him alone, and I didn't know how to go about bathing him. But I had to learn. I called my dad and told him that I just have to do it myself. And he said, no, I shouldn't try it. My dad does not joke with my son. He said I shouldn't try it. And he sent a cousin to come every day in the morning and bath him, and come in the evening and bath him. But at a point, the first day I bathed him, I didn't have to be taught. It just came natural. I think motherhood is not something you sit down and plan for. When you find yourself in the moment, it will come to you naturally. So for most of the things, it came naturally to me. Yeah. Trying to stop him from what you want him to stop doing, and I hear the age 2 is the terrible part of their growth. He will not stop. I don't know if he doesn't understand, but there are things you want him to stop, but he will not stop. And it's difficult teaching him what he has to do. I think they just do what they want to do. But sometimes you can't allow it, and it's difficult for you to stop. And that is where my fright for being a bad mother comes in, because I end up shouting. Then he will cry. Then you will say something, then he stops crying and he will laugh. So that's my fear. But he's a natural. I had a friend who had a child before me, and I was a bit involved with she raising the child. Like, I was always with her and stuff. So I picked a few things, and one thing I realized that I don't regret picking from her parenting is the childhood videos she played for her son from birth till date. I think it's a good way of building upon building their IQ or intelligence, because my son is 2 years 3 months. Before he was 2, he couldn't speak, but he can say A to Z, and he can align the alphabet to specific items. He knows colors, he knows shapes, and he knows numbers to 30 at 2 years, 3 months. So that's process of development. Most of the time I'm not there, but when I come and he's there on his own plane, you see that he's in his own world and he says stuff, and then you ask, so when did he learn this one? And it's from those videos, you see. So I think that also when you are not yet a parent or a mother and you have a friend who are already parents, I think there are stuff you could pick from them so that at least you get it right with some of the issues. Yeah. My husband is those people who don't believe in working for other people, because when he does something for himself, then he has the time to spend with his family. He does not joke about family. So at the initial parts of childbirth, he was a consultant on a project. So the project had ended that time. So he had the luxury to stay back and then be there for him whilst I go to work. And now he started a business where he's into tissue and baby diapers and wipes. I think this is a great avenue to project him for all he has done till today, for being there when I am not, and then to support his business. Sometimes I feel I'm going to be a bad mother because I shout a lot. I get thrown off by little things. Like, I'm always anxious. So sometimes it frightens me that I'm either a bad mother or I'll be a bad mother. But the love I have for that boy, it's beyond measure. But most of the time, maybe I don't know how to put it across. I've not had the pleasure, the luxury of time to spend with him. His dad has that. He had that much time for the first year of his life, so they were able to share more of those moments. But for me, because of work, I wish I was in his place, but because of work, I've not been able to share this moment. But the little moments I have with him, he's an incredible kid. In one way, I feel like that is what I have to do to give him the best. But sometimes it makes me feel like I'm a bad mother, and that's not a good feeling at all. But when I think about the life I would want to give him, I feel like I have to do it to give him that life. When he called me Mama, yes, and then the first day he walked, he called Papa before he called Mama. Yes, they do that, you know. They always do that. They call Papa before they call Mama. But the times they were even calling Mama, I'm sure we couldn't figure it out. That's how come. But the first day he called Mama, it was so heartwarming. And about the first steps, were in the hall. Those times he could get up and then lean against things, but he wasn't working on his own. So I was in the hall with my mom, and then my mom was holding his door. And he said my mom should give the door to him. And my mom said no, he should come for it. He looked at my mama, and then he just wanted it. He came for his door. And it took all of us by surprise that we didn't capture it. And it hurts me so much. My husband has tons of videos of him captured in moments that there was once he was asking him to say Mama. And he just refused to say mama. So when he says mama, he says papa. When my husband says mama, he says papa. So having those videos, you could always go back and then reminisce, and it's so nice, yeah. It's about what you are doing. I think that everybody's pregnancy is different. People have peculiar stories out there that somebody may find soothing for something she is going through. So as much as possible, if you can leverage on those you've already engaged to get others to share their stories. I think people need to know what they have to do in some circumstances. It's very important.
This video was brought to you by Echo D Super Baby Diaper and Wet Wipes made with bamboo.